Now, from the Columbia Basin, your local news source, this is iFIBER 1 News, presented in high definition. The #1 source for real-time local news, local sports headlines, and our very own Weather Center forecast covering the entire Columbia Basin. With your iFIBER 1 News team, reporting news in real time as it's happening. From the iFIBER Communications HD broadcast studio in Ephrata, Washington, this is iFIBER 1 News, and it starts now.
Welcome to iFIBER 1 News. I'm Sarah Brewer reporting news from around the Columbia Basin for Thursday, October 3rd. Tonight, we report on a Moses Lake man arrested for arson and how Grant County Fire District 3 is training with new equipment. In sports, Bob Kirkpatrick reports on the Seattle Seahawks, the Huskies, and the Cougs. Our spotlight story tonight is about a chance for kids to pick pumpkins and play in a maze near Quincy. And we have the latest weather forecast for the Columbia Basin from the iFIBER 1 Weather Center. Our top story tonight, a 19-year-old Moses Lake man was arrested for reportedly setting several bales of hay on fire last night. At about 6:30 p.m., Grant County Fire District 5 and Grant County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to the fire at Rathbun Angus Ranch at 11990 Road H Northeast near Moses Lake. They arrived to find several bales of hay worth approximately $4,500 on fire. According to witnesses, a white Subaru Justy left the scene right before the fire started. Deputies reportedly found the car and arrested Alexander M. Clemens for arson in the second degree. The car was impounded as evidence. The investigation continues, and the Sheriff's Office asks anyone with information to call them at 509-762-1160 or email them at crimetips@co.grant.wa.us. People providing information can remain anonymous. Grant County Fire District 3 has a new tool to save lives. Reporter Vivian Huang tells us all about it.
When it comes to agricultural safety, Grant County Fire District 3 has a new addition to their arsenal. The Grain Rescue Tube is a device donated by the Quincy Rotary Club to rescue individuals trapped within grain bins.
Due to the fact that this is an agricultural community, we have quite a bit of grain storage facilities, quite a few grain storage facilities, some rather large one, commercially operated, and then down to, as small as 1,000 bushels for the home farm or for the farmer on their premises. When a farmer or an individual, a worker would potentially fall into one of those, grain becomes almost like a fluid, and it can make you immobile. It'd be the same thing as like if you got in a trench collapse or something with dirt. Okay, so this is 3 of the sections put together, and this would be the final section. When we do the rescue, we're actually working all 4 sections down around the victim at the same time. So you imagine this takes more than one person to do this. But we'll push these around, and as we push them down around the person, it will make a complete tube around the outside of them, so they can't have any more grain pressure around them. We can then work from the top down, pull the grain out from around them, and extricate the person from the grain.
Lieutenant Hilly explains how volunteers work together for the training process of the tube. Connell Grain Growers, Kale Farms, Farmer Bean, and Haskins Company pitched in as well.
They all worked together. We went out one night. We actually worked in a semi-trailer. We filled it with grain so we could actually dump grain out. We put victims, if you will, in a controlled atmosphere inside that. In other words, they were all harnessed off and everything, so we wouldn't have any accidents or anything. And then we practiced with that grain tube, pulling them out, let all our volunteers get hands-on experience as far as putting the tube around a victim and pulling them out. Again, it's one of those tools we hope we never have to use, but if it is something that would come that we'd have to make an emergency response to a grain tank, this would give us a really good option as to potential of saving somebody's life that would be in a grain situation. It could be corn, it could be wheat, it could be beans, it could be a lot of things. It goes to a lot of different crops.
For iFIBER 1 News, this is Vivian Huang.
Thank you, Vivian. A tariff hitting one of Grant County's largest employers prompted a federal representative into action. Representative Doc Hastings, along with Representative Steve Daines of Montana, sent a letter to the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative to work on lowering a 57% tariff on polysilicon products going into China. The tariff hit the company in July following an increase on duties on Chinese solar panel products set by the U.S. Department of Commerce. The increase followed investigations concerning whether Chinese companies were dumping their solar panels into the U.S. market, Hastings and Danes wrote. The majority of REC Silicon's polysilicon product, about 80%, is shipped to customers in China. The company is the third largest private employer in Grant County. For more on the story, visit us online at iFiber1.com/news. Each of the people you see here has warrants for their arrest and is wanted by various law enforcement agencies. If you see any of these people, the DOC asks that you do not attempt to detain or apprehend them, but to call police. You can also call the Department of Corrections at 509-764-6180 during the day or 509-762-1160 after 5 p.m. We'll be back after these messages with the latest from our iFiber One Weather Center, sports, and more news.